Okay, in this lesson we're going to learn how to work with ASCII characters and random numbers to create kind of an interesting program. We're going to first of all learn the char function. It looks something like this, CHR, and then inside the parentheses you put a number. I'm going to put the number, say 97, close the parentheses, and I see that that returns the lowercase letter a. If I put in another number, I'll just pick a random number. We can see that that returns the number 7. The ASCII characters represent all the keys on your keyboard, and the number ranges are between 33 and 126. So we see 33 returns the character, the exclamation point, and if I put in value 126, that gives me the tilde. And any other number in between there is going to return one of the characters on my keyboard. So the number 99 returns the lowercase letter c. So that's the CHR function. You put in a number, it spits out one of the characters that is represented on your keyboard. Now, there's another function that's the complete opposite of that. It's called the ORD function, or ordinal. ORD. Ordinal is just another fancy word for number. So if I use the ordinal function and then I put in a character, so I have to surround it with single quotes, and say I put in the lowercase letter c, surrounded in single quotes, put that in parentheses, hit enter, we'll notice that it spits out the number 99. We can see from my screen here that that makes sense, because when I put in the number 99, I got the lowercase letter c. When I put in lowercase letter c into the ordinal function, I got the number 99. So we see that CHR function and ORD function are just kind of the opposite of each other. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and create a simple program that allows us to kind of experiment with these two functions. We're going to put in a number of random numbers in a range, and we're going to let those random numbers be turned into characters, and then we'll print them to the screen. We're also going to allow the user to put in a character number symbol from their keyboard, and we'll spit out the corresponding ordinal number using the ordinal function. Okay, we're going to do all of that looping inside a new kind of loop. It's called a for loop. It starts with the word for, and up to this point we've been using the while loop in Python 3, but now we're going to learn a new loop. Okay, so let's get started with this program. I'm just calling this the ASCII character program. I'm going to make a new window in my idle from the interactive shell. Make a new window, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in a title to my program. Again, this is my ASCII character program. Okay, I'll put my name. Okay, and we're going to use a couple different modules. We're going to import the random module, and let's import the time module just because we've been doing that lately. It's been fun. I'm going to go ahead and put another comment in here that just lets the user know that this is where my program begins here. Okay, I think it's a good idea to do that. Now, if I were including a bunch of functions in my program, which we've done in the past, all my functions would go in up here. You would define those functions using the define and put in your functions up here, and then your program always begins down below that. But we're not going to have any separate functions in this program, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into a for loop. Okay, and a for loop, as I said, starts with the word for, F-O-R, and inside the for loop we begin by declaring a variable that we're going to use inside the function. And every time we go in the function, the variable, in this case my char, or my car, is going to be given a new value. And then I use the word in, the keyword in, and I have to give it some kind following the in operator, I have to designate either some string or some list of values. I just want to actually use a number. A number has to be kind of converted into a list by using the range function. So I'm going to go ahead and use the range function and put in just the number 10. That's going to be the number of times I want my loop to repeat itself, is the number 10. Okay. So basically I'm actually giving it a collection of numbers. I'm saying anywhere between the range of 0 and 10. So it's going to go through a list of numbers from 0 to 10. And when it reaches 10, it'll stop. Okay. And so I'm now inside my for loop, and I'm going to declare a variable called random num, and I'm going to give it a value. I'm going to use the good old randint function, which we've used a bunch, and I'm going to give it a range of numbers. Now, I want to use these ASCII characters that I just showed you, and as I mentioned earlier, they use numbers in the range, or in between the numbers 33 and 126. I've actually provided you a handy little downloadable form that I'd like to look at right now. It looks like this, and you can open it in Moodle from this lesson, and you'll see that I've listed out the symbols on your keyboard. For example, the exclamation mark is the number 33, and all the way down up to 126. As I mentioned earlier, the values 33 to 126 represent every character, number, lower and uppercase letter on your keyboard. So again, the lowercase z is the number 122. The lowercase c is the number 99. Lowercase a, 97. We can go on up here. Uppercase letters, okay, are in the values between 65 and 90. Okay, so this I want to encourage you to download this table from Moodle, and I want you to print it out and keep these handy, because you'll be using these characters and symbols throughout the next few lessons. Okay, so now back to our program. We're writing a program here, and we want to get a random number. Well, we want to use our characters on the keyboard, and so we know we need to get random numbers between the value of 33 and 126. And when we do that, we convert those into characters. We're going to get recognizable characters from our keyboard. Okay, so I go ahead and I get a random number, store it in the variable random num. Now I can simply create another variable, my car. Again, this is the one I'm using up here in my loop. And I'm going to say my car now is going to be given the value, and I'm going to use the chr function and take my random num and convert that into a character, just like that. Now if I print out something like this, the random number is, okay, and concatenate that with the plus symbol, and then take my random number, random num variable, and turn that into a string, and then close my parentheses. I can say the random number is, print out the random number. Note that I do have to turn it into a string first, because if I'm going to print it, it has to be a string. And then on the next line, I'm just going to go ahead and say something like this. Or how about something like this? This number is the code for, okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and insert in my car. Okay, and why don't we just put a new line break at the end of that? Okay, now note, when I put in my car as a character, or excuse me, as a variable, my car is not a number. It's already a character or string, so I don't need to use the string function to turn it into a string because it already is compatible with being printed out in the print function as a character. Okay, and we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll just go ahead and do something like this: time.sleep. We'll put in the parentheses the number 1. That way we'll get a little pause in between each of these. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to save it. Okay, and now go ahead and press the F5 key, and my program is running. Okay, so we see here it's selecting a random number between 33 and 126. We can see each of these numbers here is somewhere between that range. Okay, and then it's taking that number and using the CHR function and turning it into a upper or lowercase letter or a symbol such as the backslash or a number. I don't actually see any numbers here, but let's go ahead and run the program again and just see if this time we get some numbers. Okay, so again we're getting symbols, letters, there's a number, the number 7, and etc. So we are getting all the different characters that are on our keyboard, the ASCII characters, their equivalent characters because we've selected a number by random and then we've used the function, CHR function, to turn it into a character. Pretty interesting. Okay, now we're going to use the opposite function, the ORD or ordinal function, to take a number, or excuse me, a character that the user types into their computer, and we will let them know what code is represented by that character. So let's go back to our program. We're just going to go ahead and create another loop this time. This time I'm going to say something like my num, create a variable my num, and we'll say in the range of, I think I'll use 5 this time because I don't want my loop to go on forever. So I'm doing a for loop that says for my num in the range of 0 to 5, and so 5 times I'm going to loop through, and I'm going to print out kind of a prompt and ask the user to enter a character, and then maybe I'll be more specific, a number, letter, or symbol, just so that they know exactly what I mean. And close that parenthesis, close that quotation, and then I will just say my car is given the value of input, so whatever they input, it's going to store it in the variable my car. You can use any variable names you want. This is just what I've chosen to use. Now here's the variable from my loop. I'm going to say my num is given the value. Let's see, what do I want to do? I want to spit out a number that is the character code for the character that they put in. So they put in and typed in a character, it's stored there in my car, and I need to take that now and turn it into a number and store it in my num. Well, as we remember from earlier in this video, we use the ordinal function, ORD, and the ordinal function takes a number, okay, or excuse me, takes a character. So I can just type in my car, which they just typed in, and place it inside the parentheses. Now I can print out the code for that character. Okay, the character they put in is, and then I can concatenate and add their number, or excuse me, the number that I just got from this function. And I can print that out there, my num. Okay, now, as you're probably catching from what I've just done, I can't take a number and print it out in a string unless I first take that number and turn it into a string. So I'll surround this number with the function, str function or string function. Okay, and that's it. Okay, now if I want to break out of my for loop there, I'm going to have to back up 4 spaces and maybe just print a goodbye message. I always think it's good to let the user know when the program has ended and is exiting. Okay, so let's take a look at this, what this is going to do. Okay, I've finished typing out the code, so let's go ahead and run it one more time. And again, it's going to run through the first for loop. It's going to go through that loop 10 times. It's picking a random number between 33 and 126, and then it's spitting out the corresponding character from the keyboard. Now I've entered into the second loop. It's asking me to enter a character, which a number, letter, or symbol. And so let's say I put in the letter G. The corresponding code for that character is 103. Let's put in the lowercase z that's a 122. Lowercase a 97. Exclamation point, we should know that that's a 33. How about a, let's see, a capital A? That is the code for that character, 65. And I've reached the end of my loop. That loop only went 5 times, and then it states goodbye, and I leave the program. Okay, so that's how we go ahead and work with this first program. I want you to take a look at the program and follow the instructions in Moodle to create your own similar program.